where I was gonna be like, who here has heard of Jenkins? But I'm sure that pretty much everybody here has heard of Jenkins. Uh,
No, I've never seen Jenkins.
how closely, besides of course Parrish and Orgus, I know how closely they've worked with Orgus. Arlene, how closely have you ever worked with Jenkins, with a Jenkins system? Is it something that you've used, or is it something that you actually had to manage? Or could you please describe a little bit? The keys to the Porsche. I think Mariusz likes you. And I'm sorry if I sound a bit stuffy, by the way, my nose is really stuffed. I used it a bit in a previous job and here. So it's mostly used, right? And what is sometimes used for is in companies to run tests and whatever, also to build software. Basically, Jenkins is a tool that can automate anything that can be automated on the machine you install it. That sounds like a simple automation tool, but it has so much more, of course. That's just the core. But it does mean that Jenkins is installed with a user and he has the same rights as that user. Does that make sense? So on the system, if you can get a reverse shell, you can get a reverse shell as the user who installed Jenkins. That's important to realize because sometimes you'll have to still do your privilege escalations. Now, in Jenkins, of course, we can find a lot of stuff, especially in an open Jenkins like this one. There's actually this one, not a whole lot of issues, I would say, but we can definitely see that there are some in this case. So we have what's known as a multi-job, and a multi-job will run several single jobs. And in these single jobs, we can see what's known as builds. In the console output, what you can often find for these builds is Jenkins going through the build itself and saying, oh, I did this on that, I did this on that. You see, it is actually this here. So basically, this is all standard. I don't usually look at that. But here, that's more interesting. Running as system. I should tell you a little bit as what user. Oh, my camera's off. I'm so sorry, guys. Hold on. You need to see my pretty face. There we go. That's better. All sick and shit. So running a system that already indicates what this user is running as. Still, when we try to get it to spin up a process and keep it up, it was a fucking nightmare. It was really a nightmare, especially since Jenkins, yeah, when Jenkins jobs are done, it kills the process. That also means no hub and stuff like that. But what this job here has done in our case is it is basically building it's making a few calls and it's checking the responses. Now it's building that in a workspace. So this gives you some machine information that you might be fighting against. And once again, this one is fully open to view. And this is what you'll often find in companies where it's like, okay, this is now like the workspace, etc. Really, really useful stuff. And then it's gonna try to execute what it needs to execute. Now, in this case, you don't see what IP address this thing is testing or whatever. That's not that important. You already see some port numbers here and what status they should return when a success is received. You can see that here, 8,200 should return 404, 8,201 should return a 302, etc. So this gives you some information about a system. This can be the system itself, this system right here, or it can be a different one. It doesn't have to be per se. So if we go and look at actually what is being built here, you can see that it's not the system, it's like literally the Hexpert labs. A lot of these things are against the Hexpert lab. Because we want to make sure that our labs are still up with their APIs. We have like so many APIs at a certain point. But basically, this is a simple job, the most simple one you'll find. And what you'll often find in companies is that they leave their Jenkins jobs fully unprotected. And in that console output, you'll find very valuable information, not particularly in all of them, of course, but Sometimes they put passwords in there, sometimes they put usernames in there. It's a hot mess. Like it really is. You can see here already. This is probably one of the biggest disasters you can have. Oh no, we have the pass of the admin. Of course, this is just a lab, so we don't really care that this is public. This is public. It is in the solutions.txt file, but this is a security vulnerability. That's for sure. So, this is something you might be thinking like, oh, this is really easy to spot. It's not. It really isn't. And I'm gonna prove it to you guys. I'm gonna give you guys 10 minutes to find a piece of valuable information like username or a password on this system right here. And just take your time, take about 10 minutes of time, and afterwards we're going to go through it together. Now, in the meantime, I'll tell you guys a little bit about my history with Jenkins because that is not super interesting for some of you. And then the videos, you can skip it. And otherwise, you can just mute me for the next 10 minutes. So basically, the way I got started with Jenkins is pretty early on by just executing tests on it, but not building the jobs myself. Because building jobs on this is DevOps work is sometimes you sometimes also our work as QA engineers, of course. But this job thing is not what like this is not what we should make or keep ourselves too busy with. But of course, Faith chose differently. And with these Jenkins systems, I had to start managing them at a certain point, start creating jobs myself to execute my tests and so on. And at a certain point, you come to a place where there are like 50 projects running, all with different types of tests, and you have to make sure that the whole Jenkins infrastructure stays up and running. It's really sad. It's a it's a mess. It's a hot mess, and it's really difficult at that point to like well upgrade to a safe level, let's just say, because you come into this company where it's like a really old version. So what do you do? You have two options. Either you're going to go complain about it to management, or you set up your own Jenkins system like we did right here that have different types of jobs in them. Basically, you can see that in our systems here, if like we have monitors for the labs. This mission control thing is something that I can put on my big screen here. That's just a dashboard. If we have pipelines, we can add them here, and we have a few webs as well. So basically, with setting up this system, I've started to experiment because I can add users, I can make things public. It's also like a learning system, of course, but this also indicated to me that Jenkins is super hard to manage at that level, which is great for us as hackers because if you come across a Jenkins system, 9 times out of 10, it's vulnerable as fuck. Might be saying that's an exaggeration, but it's actually not. Because the Jenkins systems, they run out of date automatically with time. And especially if you have like a system like this, it doesn't really auto update because often they are protected behind firewalls, don't have access to the internet through a proxy, whatever. So they cannot update their systems. And that's really cool for us because at that point, there's a lot of old vulnerabilities in these systems. Now, of course, these vulnerabilities are in the plugins, but it's gonna be like in this Jenkins system. Now I have like, let's say 10 plugins. That's decently easy to manage. If I get 100 plugins, that's impossible to manage. And besides that, it's not the plugins that we are mostly interested in. I'll show you guys later as well. You got about 6 more minutes to find me a secret or vulnerability, by the way. But you should just be able to go to there and find there's a ton of them. I would just like to know what you guys think is vulnerability here. Let's give it maybe 1 more minute for the people who muted me. I'm cutting down the time. because I'm a badass like that. Now, let me see myself is the JWT one. So a JWT token, I would say, is probably pretty bad, right? So this could be a great example. If you guys want, I can send you the link to that. Have you guys been able to click around on this a little bit? Arlene, AKMK, have you been able to find your way around? Well, Arlene, I know you know your way around this stuff. I would hope so. It's like you guys cannot create and edit jobs, of course. Like if you haven't logged in, that's not possible. I will give you login details later, but that's not for now yet. So, any other vulnerabilities that you guys found? Well, there's a bunch of them. There's literally a bunch of them. Oh, no problem. No problem, AKMK. Sorry about the confusion. So basically, what we try to do is we're like Jenkins, like I said, it's just a system which executes commands. And I'll show you guys what I mean with that later, of course. But we were just asking if you have like an open Jenkins like this, you can see all of these jobs and they do something. In this case, they're going to make a few API calls. If I look at this console, you can sometimes find things like passwords, secrets, API keys, etc. And that's more than sometimes because Jenkins has a secrets manager, but half of the people that use Jenkins don't know that it has a secrets manager, which makes it really, really convenient for us, of course, because then on our end, we can say, okay, let's explore that thing now. And like I was saying as well, you're gonna have a lot of people we're going to look for the same as with WordPress. What kind of plugins do we have? All of these plugins right here, they're out of date. So I have to update them. And I can guarantee you that a lot of companies don't have a great software development. Like, how do you call it again? Governance or whatever. I mean, I don't come here every single day and look at this. Web login bypass down. I have no idea, dude. You're asking too many questions. Web login bypass down. So I'm just, I have no idea. Uh, yeah. Why is it down on this board? Because I still haven't updated that thing yet. You said you moved it to a different location or something, but in the labs, but I haven't looked at here. I haven't moved it here yet. Sorry. Yeah. My apologies about that. I'm a little bit, well, I don't feel so great lately, so I feel a little bit overwhelmed. I'm trying to take some more time for my family, but I keep forgetting shit that's really important. I never, ever, ever do that. How dare you? Anyway, so what I was saying about those jobs, let's just have a look at what they are built with. This is the main dashboard in Jenkins. You guys don't have this new item thing here, but basically what I've done on my system is I've installed Jenkins as a service. You're going to have many ways of installing Jenkins. Well, many, three, four, five, like Docker is also, of course, possible. There's options for you. But in this case, I've installed it as a service as a specific user, like I said before. Now, here I can name my item and I can build the type that I want. A freestyle project, a Maven project, a pipeline, a multi-configuration project, an external job. What the fuck are all these, right? Well, you don't have to worry too much about them. It's just different types of things that Jenkins can execute, but we'll just start with a typical freestyle project and we'll work our way from there. And here we're always going to be able to add a description. This does take HTML, but it doesn't take things like script alert. That's not going to happen. That's it. So it's just literally prints the text there, as you can see, but it does take markup. Oh no, this is a plain text description. That's never gonna work, Wes. What are you talking about? So basically here you can see you have either a plain text description or HTML1. Apparently I've activated the plain script. I wonder why. Maybe I have like 100,000 hackers trying to hack me. But this is basically also possible. You can add parameters here. You can see like, okay, I want to start to build something. Let's say that, for example, I want to make a few calls and I want to see if they give me a 200 okay. Now for the IP addresses, I want to have like a list or something of IP addresses that I can pick from. That's possible. You can make that into a parameter and you can add this parameter into the build of the project yourself. So we can do that. Let's see, file multi-line string. And here you can just add the values that you'd like. Now, in this case, I'm not gonna work with it. It's not interesting. GitHub project, etc. These are just some like general Jenkins mumbo jumbo project. What am I saying? Settings. Don't mind them too much. This is the source code management. Basically, this job needs to either download source code or just execute what I put in it. So in this case, I would like to download source code from Git, for example. And in this case, I also need to have Git credentials for that. So I've added a few here. You can see them. These Git credentials have the possibility to download things from Git because they have the SSH certificate activated there. And then you have the build activators. This is just when this thing needs to build the build environment. When it starts to build, you have like a workspace. That's always gonna be the case. And in that case, you sometimes want to clean that up before it starts again. Because the code might have changed and you want to re-download it because you don't want to keep adding and increasing the disk size. There are multiple reasons why. And then you can use, again, secrets, text files, provide configuration files. I'm not going to give you guys the whole Jenkins spiel here. This is where it matters, not for us even still. They just want to show you this is how you make a Jenkins job. Well, you can execute different things. Since I've installed this on a Linux agent, I can execute shell scripts, but I can also do ECT, execute Node.js. How can I execute Node.js? Because Node.js is installed on the server. All of these things have to be installed on the server before they can work, but it's definitely possible to just make like a few HTTP requests, for example. Now, with these jobs, when you've created them, they'll run on an automatic schedule, or when you click play, you can choose that. But when you have a dashboard like this, consists of a bunch of jobs. The whole beauty of this is that maybe one job doesn't have a whole lot of information, but there might be 10,000 jobs on here. Like that's maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but there is so much things, jobs that could be on here because we also have like a Jenkins system. It's called our general Jenkins system. I don't touch that thing with a 10-foot pole, but it has every team's junk on it. It's literally the junk of everybody who wants to try something. They just install it there first, and then they bring it to the main server. And these kinds of servers are really, really interesting to go through because I found like maybe 150 different passwords in there. I can make API requests with Jenkins and I can get all of their descriptions and I can just control F for password. Not that it would be difficult to guess those passwords anyway, but that's with any company, right? Unbelievable. All right, so basically these APIs that have been running for a little bit, they just test API requests. They don't really do anything. Well, they try to see if the Chiefs Master bot is still active and the CNWBP bot is still active, but sometimes they fail. The jobs themselves, they give green when the bots are down. So it's not all fun and games. And then we have some web requests on there, some login bypasses, some easy property assignments, web RS, just just a few jobs. I'm sorry, by the way, I'm a bit sick, guys, so I might be rambling a little bit. But we have a few jobs to test our labs. That's what I'm trying to get to. Now, creating something like this, if you are able to create a job, then you are able to make a reverse shell. It's simple. Well, not 100% of the time. The thing is, of course, firewall rules need to be active, etc. But at least you can get Jenkins to make that callback to get a reverse shell to your system. So the way that you do that is you make it just a shell script and you make that shell script a reverse shell, but you can have it do all kinds of interesting things. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to add a new user for you guys. And that can be a shared user. We can all log in as the same user. But well, no, I'm not going to keep it after this webinar. So I'm not sure how useful that's going to be, AKMK. I'm trying to think if it's best if we just go about it where I show you. I wanted to have a little bit more of an interactive class where we do a little bit of assignments, but we don't have that much time, and it's maybe better. So, like I've already said before, these Jenkins systems, they go out of date really fast because they don't have really good governance in companies to keep these systems up to date. This is not the only system running. There's God knows how many systems running, and they all need to be kept up to date and they all need to be kept clean from any contamination, etc. But in this case, my Jenkins has a lot of vulnerabilities in one of its plugins, or some of its plugins even. Let's go through those and see what they actually mean. Let's see if my Jenkins really is in danger, because you guys saw how much red it showed. But if Jenkins would like to get started, there we go. Thank you so much, Jenkins. So we can see here, Jenkins is end of life of Jenkins 11 is end of life. Yeah, we probably should update that, Orgis. Okay, good to know. So Jenkins 2.4442 core and libraries. Terrapin SSH vulnerability in the Jenkins CLI client. So basically, you can see that if you have the CLI client, where is it? It's an SSH issue in there. Yeah, damn. Okay, yeah, we probably should update it. So for this vulnerability, this allows a machine in the middle attacker to reduce the security of an SSH connection. To reduce the security of an SSH connection, what does this mean? I haven't looked into the Terrapin one myself closely, but if you guys have, feel free to let me know in the chat. I'm gonna have a view at the CVE later and see if we can find anything interesting, but it didn't seem like it's super critical. Mind is that are susceptible to reduce the security. Yeah, it's not good, of course. It's definitely not great, but it's pretty hard to exploit this one, I would say. Then we have a struts plugin issue, and in this struts plugin issue, I opened the wrong one. We can see an exposure of secrets through system logs. So basically, one of these plugins, if we have it active, it could leak things into its logs. Sounds crazy, but these things, they aren't always active. So you could have like plugins installed because somebody wanted to try something and it's not even active. Even if it were active, you can see this is a low vulnerability and it's not really that important. But this is all in the same red. You can see here stored XSS in the mission control plugin. So if we were to do a stored XSS attack in the mission control plugin, Orgus and I would keep getting pop-ups on our Jenkins screens. That's just great. Plain credential plugin, secret file credentials stored unencrypted in rare cases. We have script security plugin, multiple sandbox bypass vulnerabilities might be something to look at. You can already see that these are not always as bad as they seem. things aren't dire in our case, except maybe we should upgrade our Jenkins 11 to or Java 11. We should probably upgrade that. Why the heck are we still running on Java 11? What the fuck? Probably because I just installed the server and didn't install the latest Java version. All right, so we can once again see all of these vulnerabilities here. I've updated them now myself. So afterwards, let's of course do a system restart. All right, so we're going to restart the Jenkins system. Does anybody have any questions for me so far? Downgrade the SSH. Yeah, indeed. So it's probably going to be a little bit less secure. I'd have to look at what it does, but it doesn't sound menacing in any case. Now, it's good that Jenkins reports on this stuff, but it does make managers go absolutely batshit crazy because they see so many vulnerabilities. If you have a lot of plugins, it's so easy to lose track of updating them all. Sometimes you might be getting to and the plugin not being supported anymore. You might be able to get to a situation where plugins aren't able to work with your current version of Jenkins anymore. All of this is so much fun. I love it. Is it restarting? Maybe not. Maybe. Yeah. As you can see, Jenkins is sending a signal to kill all of the build stuff. So I'm going to make a little bit of a job in a bit. It's not going to work now anyway. But you can already see here, I can talk about that a little bit. You can see here the build queue. All of these jobs, you can see mine here, they run every hour, I believe, or something like that. And they run for a few seconds max. But they have to run on a machine. But this machine, you can see here, I have 3 machines here. And I know what's happening. It's not able to restart because of this. I'll just have to manually kill it. But basically, these 3 machines, they're all the same machine. They're all on the same machine installed. What you see here, the difference though, is you have your master, so basically what I'm controlling right now, and the slaves. And the slaves are just to execute jobs. Now, normally you would put a slave on a different machine. But you could just as well separate your slaves into different slaves in one machine. It might be logically more better to group stuff like that. Sometimes you want to group your machines a little bit together where you're like, okay, this machine built that, this machine builds that. But these machines, you can already imagine when you hack a Jenkins network, the other machines are reachable. You can go to them. So if you were to hack this Jenkins server right here, and you were to reach the main node, you're pretty sure you could be jumping to Agent 2 and Labs Hexpert as well, because it's the same machine. So that's not important. But if it was a different machine, I could just make a connection from there to there when I am in SSH. And that's going to allow me to jump through the network a little bit and find all of these slaves because, as I said before, they have workspaces on them. Let's give that a shot, but let's just look first at let me log in first. That's important. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do that. Let me look at making a job first, a really simple one. So I'm just going to call it something silly. And we're going to make it a job that execute an sh command for the pwd command. So all I want to do is Jenkins execute a who am I. So I don't need any of these things. I don't need source control. I don't need when it activates. I don't care about that. I don't need to care about the build environment. I do need to care about a build step though. And here we have a run shell script. You can see that Jenkins doesn't give a fuck, by the way. Jenkins is hardcore. Execute Windows bot command. It would just won't work on this system. That's the thing. All the people are like, oh, Jenkins, can you do Linux and Windows at the same time? But it can't. And here, let's just do a who am I? This thing is annoying me. All right. So this is the basically when the job is done, what do we need to add to it? Like for example, do we need to read that console that we just saw and see if there's a specific word on it and fail the job if there's a word on it? Do I need to send a mail to my manager? There's like all these different options that you could choose as post build actions. Let's look at our results here. There we go. So you can see that we started by this user. That's nice to have in terms of looking, I guess. We're running as the system, and in this case with a workspace right here. You can already see as well the results. Who am I? Jenkins. Okay, perfect. So this is just a very simple job that does nothing really. It just does a command. But you can imagine that you can make a reverse shell with this. You can just make a netcat listener on your computer and send a reverse shell to it. You can also, if you cannot send a reverse shell to it, why not explore the system itself? You got free reign if you can make a job like that, basically, as that specific user. Now, what does that look like on the machine itself? That's not the one that we need. This is the one that we need. Let's go to the console again. You can see here the location of the workspace. That's just this. So basically, you can see that all of these jobs have their own workspace. And they need to sometimes download code from Git, for example. They need to put it somewhere. That's where this goes. And then, for example, we download the code from Git, we move it to a different location on the server, and we run it from there or whatever. But these jobs with their workspaces, you'll have to look at. So if you're ever on a system that has a Jenkins installation on it, these workspaces are really interesting items because they could be containing files from Git, which can then in turn contain passwords. Because I'm thinking, of course, about your like programmers who put the passwords, plain text in the programming language. You can do API keys, you can do usernames, passwords, just company information, PII. That's the big one. You can see a lot of information in here if it is pooled, of course. If there's nothing pooled, let's go to, but where is it? There we go. So that job that we made, this workspace, it's empty. There's nothing in it, logically. So you'll go through all of them. You'll see, okay, there's something useful or not. So I've made a job now. I've looked at that. Um, what the fuck is that noise? Sounds like somebody's hitting something with a hammer at 10 p.m. Jesus Christ. That's our lovely Polish neighbors. We have Polish working neighbors. Nothing wrong with them. It's just that they love to work at 10 p.m. Why? I don't get it. They're like these working people, like they switch every so often. Well, the thing is, I live in an apartment, and the apartment upstairs it's rented to somebody who has a construction company, and he lets some of his people sleep here, depending on who needs to be on the job and stuff like that. So we'll have different Polish people over us from time to time, but these Polish people, at least they're neat. They don't litter like my previous lovely neighbor. Um, so far. Uh, so what you see here as well, I forgot to say that, is that we have a bunch of queues in here. We have the main node, that's the master Jenkins, with the inactive nodes in here. These can be used up by any of these. Now, these are usually, you should say, we don't take in 6 queues per machine, and especially not on a master. Usually, jobs are executed on the slaves. The workspaces are also on the slave. So once again, workspaces everywhere. check every single one of them. And then Jenkins in here is installed as a service. How do you show the Linux services again? Fuck, yes. Uh, what am I? So, system CTL. There's a Jenkins one in here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Almost had it there. Jenkins.service. So that's how I chose to install it. We already saw as well that Jenkins runs on Java. So that also means that the Jenkins service runs in a JVM. Not a huge deal. It can execute commands. That's no problem. So Jenkins, I would say don't worry too much about the plugins. Make sure that you investigate everything when it comes to the console. Let's do that again, just so we have an example. Here we have the RedOS full. Let's see what this gives. I don't remember exactly. I made these jobs, by the way, but I don't remember what the heck they're supposed to do. That's the cool thing. Like, I don't know what all of my tests do. I just know that I have tests for my lab. Good enough. Let it run forever. And in this case, like with these Jenkins systems as well, I find that they're often unprotected to a large degree. Like, you sometimes username password, but often people will be like, yeah, screw it. It's only doing builds, right? And especially for this console stuff, usually people don't put that behind bars because they want to have a big screen and they want to show the status of every job. To do that, they either need to log in on that big screen or make things public. And they'll probably make the status public, but probably also the console output because these go together by default. And we can see that we have curls being done here. Once again, with username and password. So we can see more curl commands being executed, a delete command. We can go through this entire thing. What you're seeing here is basically a pipeline. You can see here, so success, create a file, list file, delete file, get the history. It just tries to execute these commands, see if files exist, delete that one. So this pipeline stuff is really useful if you want to have multiple stages, but don't think that you can only have that with a pipeline. You can have that with any type of job, just add more build steps. It's just in pipelines, you can be much more conditional. If this, then that, if this, then that. Now, when it comes to setting up Jenkins jobs, the chances that you'll be able to do that without authentication are pretty limited. That's logical, right? Like, of course, a lot of people are not going to allow that. They're just going to be able to set a new user on this Jenkins system, and they'll say, okay, not allowed to add new jobs when you're not logged in. Now, let me see real quickly. So I'm going to add users here. I'm going to create a user for you guys. Let's call this a group. Let's give him a password, same as the username. Okay, save that. Let's give it a test. This is now that's just a name. Okay, and then you might be thinking, now, what can this user do, or how can I set up what this user can do? In Jenkins, you'll still have to use security here. So you have your users and then you have security. All right, so let's see. We don't have that user in here yet, so he will not be able to do anything. I hope that's perfect. So now you can see that he can either be a global administrator or whatever. I'm just gonna be able to give you global read writes. And the credentials, yeah, let's do create view, I guess. Then also, I don't really have security update things in here and update. Let's do build, configure, connect. No. Yeah, create. Not delete, disconnect, provision. Okay, so the next thing is job based. You're going to be able to see that this user can either cancel jobs, configure job, create job, discover job. Ah, this is agent stuff. This is for the agent, sorry, this is for the job itself. Move a job, read the job and access the workspace. And he can either start to delete, replay, update. Yeah, I don't need any of those. Show. We don't need any of those either. And as for the agents, you won't be able to install those either. You don't need that. Okay, jobs you should be able to work with now. Let's see if that user can. Now, what I would like you to do is I would like you guys to go through this system with that user. I'll log in with him first to just make sure that he can do what he needs to do. And then I would like you to take a few minutes to make a job that does a very simple thing. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I'll just put this user in the chat and I will deactivate them after this meeting. But basically, try to make a job with group team rocks. So that's the username and password. And basically, what I would like it to do is if you can make a reverse shell, I would love to see that. If not possible, just do something like pwd or like who am I or whatever. Doesn't matter, a very simple command. And then, a better idea. So try to, yeah, okay, yeah, there we go. So give it a shot for the reverse shell. If not, just try to use a different simple command. But if you can make a reverse shell, I would say take maybe a few minutes. I'll be right back. I need to take my nose drops because it's really stuffy up here. Come on, there we go. I'll be right back, my friends, and then we can go through what you've made. There we go. That's a lot better. Well, it's gonna be better in a few minutes. My whole family was sick with like stuffed sinuses, but today it's my turn, I guess. Sorry about vaping in your face, by the way. I know it's not very classy of me. Have you been able to make a job, AKMK? It's a little bit early, of course, but I'm gonna start my own job as well. I'm gonna show you a few more things, but that's not for now. Please take your time. By the way, this is your only chance to do that. I'm gonna disable the user afterwards. So if you want to try afterwards, let me know. I can make you a very temporary user, but preferably with a more secure password than this one. And also, yeah, a little bit less rights probably. In case you are able to make jobs on a Jenkins system, I want you to be able to hack the ever living shit out of this thing. Like this needs, when you see Jenkins and you are able to make a job because you found a user or whatever, that's ka-ching. That's 100% ka-ching. Because as you see, this thing is installed as a service. It can execute commands on a system. That's the whole goal of it. So yeah, if you're not able to hack it at that point, there are more security features, by the way. I'm giving you guys a little bit of time while I look
I was
in.
able to, I mean, I logged into the system, but I am
So, oh, does it,
kind of lost.
so when you're logging into the system, you can do it along with me, by the way. You can just,
Right.
so basically we log in and then
Yeah.
at the top
Did that.
left, you'll see like new item. And here you'll see basically this thing can run jobs is what we call them. And a job is like one of these items. So if we click it, you can do that. You can name it anything. It doesn't really
I don't
matter.
have the plus, I don't have the plus sign. Maybe I'm in the wrong.
Because you had to click on the right
Yeah. Okay.
login.
Oh my God. I'm so retarded. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no, no problem. It's logical. You didn't know because this system, I've set it up to be open for viewing, whereas this user, I've made it so he can create a job right now. But indeed, the system is open for viewing, so that's very insecure. Looking at all of these console
Yeah.
outputs that it's just consistently spitting out. So yeah, good job, Wes. But that's okay. It's only our labs anyway. I mean, I don't have to fix it when they're broken. Love you, Argus. So when you click new item on the top left, then you can enter a name, doesn't matter which one, first. And here you can pick the type of project. It's basically a freestyle project is you can do whatever you want in it. This is specifically for Maven. This is like a Maven project. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother you guys too much with it, but it's basically just a type of build. A pipeline, however, is like you put all of these commands of what Jenkins should do, you put that in a script form, and that's going to make it sometimes easier to manage. And you can also add different ifs here. If I look at the Red OS pool, for example, you can see it consists of different stages. And if I want to configure this job, you don't have to do this one, by the way. But here you can see this is just a script. And the cool thing about it is, again, you can do ifs, you can do else's. I don't really have that much in here. I just found it cool that I could do all of these requests per stage. I was bored one day and that's why these are made. But this is basically a pipeline. Now, a multi-configuration project, don't worry too much about these external jobs. All of these things are basically plugins. So don't worry too much about them. I just wanted to mess around with them. We are just gonna click build a freestyle project, and then at the top left, at the bottom left, we click OK. You said you were retarded. I'm go like at the top left. Jesus Christ, West. Sorry about that. Oh, geez. All right. So when you have this here, this is the configuration of one of these freestyle jobs. Configurations will always consist of different tabs, consisting of the general tab. And if it needs to get like from GitLab something, you're working with the source code management tab. This is when it is going to run. This is your build environment, but we do need the build steps. So in the left, we click build steps. And here you can click to build a new build step, add a new build step. Here you can click, say, okay, Jenkins, when I click start, do this. And basically, we can have a very simple shell script that makes a pwd command or a whoami command. And that's going to work. because this job will do that. Why can I not start in my own job? Perfect. Oh, because this user doesn't have the ability to, yeah. Okay, I see. This user cannot start jobs. That's perfect. So the job name is test web. You made the wrong type of job, I see. Okay. So did what you have is an organizational folder. Um, you'll have perfect. You also
Yeah, I clicked that
hey,
first.
my
Yeah,
apologies. I'm blind. So indeed, this is a great
no, I clicked the wrong thing.
let's see what your job does and if I can get it from here. Console output. So basically this job does nothing still, right? There's no build step.
No,
I'm right about yay.
yeah, you're right.
Have known from the console output, right? It's not like we can read it right there. But here you can now add a build step. Like I said, a very simple one. But you also need to remember that you can have other reverse shells than just your basic shell script. Node.js, for example, can also make a reverse shell. There are different ways of doing that, but that's not the only thing. You can try to read files from your system. You can try to, well, add a user through commands if this user Jenkins has enough rights to do that. There's many different things you can do, but you don't know what system this Jenkins is installed on, and it is still asking you for Windows batch or shell scripts. So you have to pick which one is there. It doesn't matter, just add both if you are not sure. In my case, I can tell you guys for sure it's Linux, but if you're not sure, just add it. It'll fail at that step. But if it needs to make a reverse shell, it'll execute the next step and you will get that. So just something to keep in mind there. Here you can also see what it needs to do after it is done. So basically, this could be very useful. For example, if you have things that, like an FTP drive that has no password protection, but they only assume that they put specific data in there or whatever, like they put something in there which is supposed to be public. It's a public FTP. Well, we could take things from here, like for example, a job. We could copy it over to that location. You can do that through the normal build steps as well, by the way. But you can just read that. You can make the file in here in the workspace. I don't have access to the workspace. Then I can, afterwards, I can publish things, is what we call them. And in that case, we can move them to a different location. So good job for making that test job. That's really well done. You can play around with it a little bit more. I'll leave it active for at least 30 minutes after this session. But what you've made here, an organizational job, is also pretty cool. This is really something like I said, you have like hundreds of jobs on here. And this is a way to group them together. It has unique properties where you can scan the organizational folder logs or organization folder events. So basically there are no events coming in. There's no log coming in at this moment because we don't have anything running. But if you have like one Jenkins system with 50 organizations on it, you can go as crazy and wild as you want. You can make these organizational units. You can just make a folder as well to group things together. It all depends. Here you just have more rights, like things like credentials and the config files per organization. So I have my ideas on how to reorganize my Jenkins systems at work, thanks to experimenting with Jenkins. Now, how do you, no, it's a good misclick. I love it. Good job. Basically, because I forgot to say about the credentials, indeed, you have credentials in Jenkins that are always scoped to a certain like location. I can have global credentials. I can have things that are in your specific job there, or I can have stores. Well, these are the global credential stores. Basically, you have different credential stores. We can add them as well. This is just the credentials themselves. Yeah, it gets really complicated, guys. Why is this? Because you don't want to have to save the username and password to Git. So what do? You make a global credential. if I don't want to like remember the username of God knows what the system that I'm logging into, I can make that into a credential with the username and the password in there. And it's a lot more secure than just putting it in the console. Because you can also output these, but you can also treat these as secret. So credentials, useful, yes, definitely, especially if you're making a job and you need things from a specific location. Also possible that you cannot do very much except for executing the things that are in GitLab. You can put it file on GitLab and then like able to download it on the machine. So there are ways to get around protections in Jenkins, but don't think too far in that direction just yet. I'm just mentioning a few possibilities that I could think of from the top of my head to get into this system where it wouldn't allow shell script commands, for example. There are ways, Node.js, like I said, if it downloads things from Git and you can write things in Git, perfect, FTP. There are many different options, but you need to be creative. And this is why I always say it is so important that you're a full stack hacker, that you know systems as well, that you know what you're able to do, because even if you're not able to execute a shell command, still doesn't mean you're not able to do anything on these systems. It's just very, very difficult, I think, as somebody who hasn't worked like us with QA. I've worked as a freelancer as QA and I've worked with so many systems. It's for me, it's easy to know, okay, what is Node.js? What does it do? What is Maven? What is Ant? What is Selenium? There are all these different terms. I know them. I've worked with so many companies, and that's a great advantage for me, and probably a great disadvantage for somebody like you, because you like it doesn't have to be though. Just take this as a learning experience where you're like, maybe I should spend the next 10 years of my career or specializing in one topic, or maybe it's also good to go broad. That's up to you. I would say broad is better, but for Jenkins, that's definitely the case. So a few more things and then we are done. Let's go to the management of Jenkins once again. Like this is not something a lot of people look into with bug bounty as well, so that's good. Absolutely AKMK, but when I see an open Jenkins systems, my eyes light up like Christmas trees. It's fucking amazing, these Jenkins systems and what they can do, and especially how little people know about configuring them. It's absolutely fantastic. I just updated these things. Oh, there says no fix available. Perfect. 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 No, it's not. That's Java, and the plugins have. There we go. You see, it's not. The plugins just have vulnerabilities in them that are unfixable, but I don't care enough to fix them. So, like I said already, a few more things that I want to go over. This is something you'll probably not get access to. This is the management console. But if you ever want to execute a script on Jenkins and it thinks it's too dangerous, it'll mark it in the in-process script things right here. So, for example, these things, I can make these pipelines. You guys know that. I can have imports in these pipelines like this one, java.learn string. If I want to import a string into a pipeline, I need to allow it. If I don't allow it, my job will fail. So that's maybe important if you're working on a pipeline script and you seem to not be able to get your reverse shell from your pipeline. It might be because these signatures from your script have not been approved. That's an important fact to know. Not a lot of people know that, by the way. Not that I knew that. I had to find that out the hard way. But I found it out in the end. I found it out. Holy shit. I'm sorry, somebody came by honking like crazy. Jesus. So what else did I want to say about Jenkins? You can see all of the build queues being full here. Why is that? Because we just don't give a fuck. We stress this thing more than org is, and that's saying a lot. You can already see as well, we can add or remove clouds, or the clouds are just collection of different runners. You can, of course, in cloud, any managed files. If we want to add like configuration files or whatever, we can add a new configuration file in here, maybe a properties file or whatever, and we can grab the configuration file at runtime. So Jenkins does have quite a few options. You guys have already seen a lot of them. Now, why is this so important? Because your Jenkins system might have one of these options available, which brings you to an exploit. Now, we've gone through that. We've gone through the security rules. Let's just go through that tab for the moment fully. I want you to go there, configuring the credential providers. We could use that, users. We've seen the scripts, and this is just some system information. So this is basically the runs, blah, blah, blah. Jenkins CLI we'll get to in a minute. How does authentication work in Jenkins? Through this matrix-based grid that we already filled in right here, or other ways we can do that as well. Our legacy mode, for example, we can make sure that logged-in users can do anything. That's a great option, isn't it? Matrix security, project-based matrix security. So per project, we can still determine that, and we can have role-based security, but then we would have to configure those roles. So Jenkins is quite complex, guys. Depending on how it's configured, it can get big, quite big. This is just some, like here we have plain text. We can give that to save HTML. What if save HTML not gonna allow scripts and stuff like that? And then we have the TCP port for inbound agents, some CSRF protection that's on by default. And here we see some get access tokens with some hooks. This is not really security anymore. Here we have a security warning. Not important. Who cares about security warnings, right? Right, guys? Right? And here we have the environment injector plugin. Basically, when you want to inject environmental variables, you can do that with this plugin, and you can enable permissions. Don't think about it too much. And this is for Git. If we want to verify with Git, we have to make a SSH key on the server, and we work with the known host file here. Yeah, fuck security, right? As for pussies. All right, questions so far before I move on to the next part. There's just one more thing to go, and then I'll let you go. No questions? Good, good. If you have questions, stop me, guys. So Jenkins CLI, this thing says it all, right? I can make a connection through the Jenkins instance here with a CLI file. You don't need to download this one from Jenkins right here. This is just a general Jenkins CLI jar. And then if I download that, I can take my terminal and I can go to downloads. Sorry, I'm a bit slower today, guys. And then I should be able to execute this right here. You can see indeed, I can get all of these commands which I can execute. Amazing, isn't it? This is really amazing because indeed, I don't really add credentials to here, right? So now it becomes interesting. Look what commands this thing has available. You can see here help, but there's so much more. Delete credential, delete, add credentials, restart, replay pipeline, save restart, stop builds. Let's just stop all of the builds. Um, you can do a lot with the Jenkins CLI. So make sure that when you're actually working with a system like this, that it's a little bit secure. I'm not sure how secure exactly ours is, but I want you guys to give that a try. So the Jenkins, no, you will not be able to receive that file. I will share that right here. Downloads. That's not very, is it? Yeah, no, it's not in my downloads. Great. Let's download it again. I'm gonna give you guys just that file. Ah, there we go. I'm an idiot. It was because I was blocked. Let's see if I can give you guys that. Nope, I cannot give you that. I'll put it in the drive together with all of the rest, but basically this Jenkins CLI thing, yeah, you can just find it on the internet as well. Jenkins. That's this one. No, is that one? Think so, right? Yeah, that's this one. So I'll just put that in here. And then I'll share that folder with everyone. Why didn't I just do this from the start? I should probably not teach when I'm sick. Oh no, just anyone. Viewing, yep, then we copy that link. I just saw that button in the bottom left. Sorry about that. There we go. Give it a shot, guys. So download that file in your terminal, then move to the file location and execute the Jenkins jar item right here. Give that a shot and see what you can do. Play around with it, but try to not delete my jobs, please. I would really appreciate that. Oh, here you can already see you need a lot of these options. There's listing options as well, of course, list all of the jobs. And it's really useful because I sometimes use this to also get information from my own Jenkins servers on a automated basis. Of course, on the systems where I work at in production, these are a lot more secure. You cannot just log in like this with the Jenkins CLI. You need to have you need to be in the approved list of whitelisted IP addresses and computer names. Very, you can have more protection on here. It's just how you would like it. If you would like, there's a whole wiki about this as well. Here you can see that you can work with different types of authentication with API tokens, with username, password, SSH public keys. There are many ways to connect with Jenkins CLI. Have you guys been able to do that so far? I am pretty sure that nobody has been able to do this so far. Now, well, from you guys maybe, but I mean, from like I've told everybody, go look on this system, go hack my system, go hack my system, go hack my system. I'm pretty sure that nobody's ever found this one in particular. Now, how will you guess this? Don't fucking guess, try. What the fuck are you doing not trying? Now you know that the Jenkins CLI exists, download that jar file, and then just go to that location. It's simple. See if you can get a connection. You can even do this in an automated way where you have like maybe 100 Jenkins systems that you want to go through. Maybe one of them still had the CLI active. Good, that's a starting point. So make sure that you take this up when you see Jenkins. Oh, let's just give it a CLI shot, just 2 seconds. Basically, we can also execute scripts in here. These scripts are in the Groovy scripting language. So basically, you can also make a reverse shell from here. No, let's make it interesting. You guys seem to love ChatGPT. Well, it depends. Oh, right. Yeah. I still have to reactivate that. I haven't used it in a month. I was like, let's fuck it. Let me just screw it. Like, I like AI. Don't get me wrong, I love AI. I've been using it maybe a little bit too much though. Like going back to the basics has made me realize that I need to make sure that it's my teachings and my stuff that I want to bring out and not the AIs. Like it hasn't always like it hasn't fully influenced my lessons and stuff like that, but it has had an influence. So it's better if I make more of master documentation. We will be putting that as well in the Jenkins system. There we go. So in here, we will also make some master documentation. I don't have that yet. Looks a little bit like this. And it'll help you just go over all these topics again. What do I need to know about all of them? So that's where we want to move towards. That way we also have for Jenkins something like that. And then we would like to make a complete list, like a full list out of these things, of course. Like a checklist maybe. Ah, perfect. That's a hackable Jenkins. You can hack this one as much as you want. Apparently, Orgus doesn't like you hacking the other one. Thanks for letting us know, Orgus. Really appreciate it. What's vulnerable about this server? We have like 15 minutes left. Can anybody tell me? You know, take a few minutes. I need to go to take a toilet break real quick. Explore this. See what's vulnerable about this. I wonder if you guys can figure that. Literally spilled an entire can of cola on my pants. It's a great end of the night, isn't it? So let's look at this whole Jenkins systems for a while. We have a few jobs in here. These are never all the jobs that are on a system. Usually they display some jobs, like here it says all jobs, but sometimes it's hidden. So basically, what I have to do when I create jobs is I have to make sure that I have certain dashboards, hide a lot of them because they're a mess. I want only show the good ones so far, and later on we can work with the worst ones. But now I show the good ones. So how can you find these other jobs? Find the listing endpoint, find the Jenkins CLI, just go through them. You can see already here we have a lot more jobs, AZ, Ali, admin anarchy. This seems like a lot of jobs, right? But they are not really a lot of jobs. This is a job. I think update Jenkins is a job. A hacker expert, that's a user, I believe. Jenkins admin is an admin, administrator, you can guess that. That's a user, that's also a user. So when you type something in the search bar here, it doesn't just search your jobs, it search your entire Jenkins. You need to know that. So you can go through all of these things if you would like. I'm not going to go through them right now, but we'll try to log in maybe with that administrator. Oh, was it that one? Perfect. That's the login and username. So test1235. This is something that's really hard to guess, of course, but if you want, I can put that in here. Test1235. I believe the username is the same as the password, or the password is the same as the username. So we have jobs in here. Change user. Let's see what this does. We cannot configure this as this user. Let's look at the console though. Oh, okay. This imaginary build to change. Okay, yeah, whatever. This is just a text that's not getting executed. Probably, yeah. I was just too lazy to try. But here another test job. Good question, good question. Here's another test job that is a little bit more telling. This job, I don't know why, but somebody found it would be a good idea to cut the etc password file. Now, and I wouldn't do that. That's just me. I don't know about you guys, but as a developer, it doesn't seem very useful. You never know, though. I would at least handle this more securely. Let's just put it that way. But we can make a job as well, or if we can make a job, we could do the same thing. We could try to make reverse shells or whatever. Here, the same thing, another job. I mean, I'm not gonna go through all of them. They basically just do a bunch of random shit. They don't really have any secrets in them. You do see the users here, even if you're not logged in, so that's already not good because you can, or I'm not sure if you can see them when you're not logged in. But you can see here, no, admin is not active. Admin, it's probably admin. Oh yeah, it is. Admin. You're right about that. It said, I was confused because it said admin orgis. Admin, nope. Apparently admin is not active. Okay, but we saw the credentials and guess what? We can even register. A lot of people miss that. Password is the same as the username, but a lot of people seem to miss that indeed. So you're now okay. You're now logged in. Great, excellent, good work. You can already see as well my views. Now, what does that mean? These are just like I said, like it says, my views. These are not visible to other users. Great if you want to test shit out. That's where I would build my job because also you need to know, by the way, if you're still watching this from the recording, if you're going to make a job like this, basically, when I click new job in here in a Jenkins instance, it's gonna add that job to the dashboard, or at least it's gonna try to. You can uncheck that if you want to, but basically the old dashboard is gonna have it anyway. So your job will be visible to other people. Make sure you know what the fuck you're doing and you're not just testing shit out, etc. If you want to test shit out, set up your own Jenkins system. It's not that hard. You just go all the way down, you find the Jenkins version, and then it allows you to test stuff before you can put it on here. Of course, you still have to make any guess on the operating system, but some of these jobs might be able to tell you that. I'm pretty sure that, yeah, in the monitoring data, we can also see that the swap space is kind of fucked. But we can indeed see that this is a Linux machine. All right, that's quite a lot of information. Holy crap, that's a lot of information. This is gonna end on YouTube as well, this lecture, just because basically, well, this is something I think matters a lot. Jenkins is underrated. A lot of people don't come across it once in their life, but if you're a bug bounty hunter who's going to attack a lot of systems and a lot of architectures, undoubtedly some DevOps engineers gonna have been working with Jenkins or other DevOps systems. They work in a similar way sometimes. So these skills should also be for a way translatable to other systems. Now you know what this is. It is just a service installed on the system, so it can only do things that are installed on the system. If I want to execute netcat, but netcat isn't installed on my system, well, guess what? It's not executable. All right, my friends, thank you so much for watching. It's been amazing. I'm gonna end the recording here. I will see you in the next one. Bye, amazing hackers.